Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended. It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The concept of having an abortion in the later months and even execution after birth, and that's exactly what it is. The baby is born, the baby is executed after birth, is unacceptable, and almost everyone agrees with that. My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart or, in many cases, your religion or your faith. I want to thank the 6 justices, Chief Justice John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch, incredible people, for having the courage to allow this long-term, hard-fought battle to finally end. This 50-year battle over Roe v. Wade took it out of the federal hands and brought it into the hearts, minds, and vote of the people in each state. It was really something. Now it's up to the states to do the right thing. Like Ronald Reagan, I am strongly in favor of exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. You must follow your heart on this issue, but remember, you must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently, and very sadly, a nation in decline.
This is Trump finally coming out with his statement on abortion, which took so long because he had to figure out some tortured way to try and sound amenable to both sides. Although, judging by this statement, and I'll put this as frankly as I can, it is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Let's get right to the point of what he's saying, because he's saying 2 things at once here. First, that he supports leaving it up to the states. Let's be clear about what this means. Half of the states he's leaving it up to have abortion bans in place. Look at this map of the US. 21 states have either outright or partial abortion bans in place right now. Donald Trump supporting quote-unquote states' rights is another way of him saying that he supports the full ban, even in cases of rape or incest, in Texas, for example. Is that moderate? Is that reasonable? It's another way of him saying that he supports the full ban, also with no exceptions, in Alabama and Louisiana and Arkansas, in Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia and Idaho. Is that a moderate stance? It's another way of him saying that he supports Florida's brand new 6-week abortion ban. Is that moderate? It doesn't matter how he frames it, because what he means is clear. If you support abortion bans in the states, then you support abortion bans. Period. And that's a point that Joe Scarborough reiterated on air.
What he just said was he supports, like, Florida's 6-week ban.
Yep.
6-week ban, ban before women know whether they're pregnant or not.
Dangerous.
And bans like Wisconsin had, you know, that 1849 was total ban. I'm not sure if it's still in effect now, but there are, again, crazy, extreme laws that have been passed that Donald Trump just said he supports.
In other words, Trump may think that he's being slick, but we're not stupid, and we can all see what he's trying to do. And remember, this is what the party more broadly has been doing for years. How many times did we hear Republicans call abortion a states issue? And when Roe was finally overturned, how long did it take for Lindsey Graham to introduce a nationwide abortion ban in the Senate, and for Chris Smith to introduce a nationwide abortion ban in the House? Not very long. So when Trump says that he wants it to stop at the states, anyone who believes that is why that Charlie Brown cartoon where Lucy pulls the football away over and over and over again actually exists. And by the way, he betrays how poor his position is when he immediately starts insisting that actually it's the Democrats who are the radical ones here because they're aborting babies in the 9th month or even afterwards. And this talking point has been a common refrain on the right, that Democrats are advocating for abortion on demand or even after birth. Why? Because it sounds scary, and at the end of the day, nothing is more effective among a Republican base than fear-mongering. But here are the facts, which I've said before and I'll say 1,000 more times if I have to. First of all, post-birth abortion is not happening. It is a way for demagogues like Donald Trump to fearmonger to a base that they love nothing more than to exploit and manipulate. Second of all, according to the CDC, almost 99% of abortions occur before 21 weeks. Republicans love to frame this as liberals just nonchalantly aborting babies on the day of their delivery because why the hell not? But that is not what's happening in reality. Again, virtually all abortions are happening before 21 weeks. And so think about why those last 1% of women are getting abortions after 21 weeks. The reasons range from fetal anomalies to health risks to the mother. And so banning abortion after some arbitrary date isn't going to stop the kinds of hysterical reasons that Republicans fearmonger about, like infanticide, because infanticide isn't actually happening. That is a figment of Republicans' imagination. All it's going to do, in reality, is impact the 1% of women who are already dealing with some major trauma. Again, 99% of abortions are happening early anyway. The only post-21-week abortions are the result of some major complication. That's who's being impacted. That's who Republicans would be making life more difficult for, the women who are suffering due to some unforeseen issue or complication. They would be finding the single most vulnerable, desperate, heartbroken women out there and imposing an unnecessary burden onto them for solely political reasons. And let's be clear, they know that, but they're saying whatever they need to say to pander to the base to win an election. Because it's not about helping others, it is about helping themselves. Now, perhaps more importantly, you'll notice that Trump also said this.
You must follow your heart of this issue, but remember, you must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently, and very sadly, a nation in decline.
He's winking at his supporters and telling them that clearly he understands what they want, and that clearly he wants it too, but that he has to say what he has to say to be able to win so that they can even get to the point where he could impose harsher restrictions on women. Let's be clear, just because Trump says that he wants to leave it to the states does not mean that he actually wants to leave it to the states. I know that this may come as a shock, but Trump lies every fucking day of his life. And if his goal is to convince us that the same guy who brags on a daily basis that he killed Roe v. Wade and decimated 50 years of precedent is suddenly perfectly content to stop there, then he must have us confused for his own gullible base. So here's what I would offer in response to Trump's offer to litigate human rights. This isn't a negotiation. We're not going to settle for it being left up to the states, or for a 4-week ban, or a 6-week ban, or a 12-week ban, or a 16-week ban, or whatever other nice round number Trump arbitrarily landed on, because reproductive freedom isn't negotiable. That's it. You don't get to strip rights away that Americans have enjoyed for 50 years and then present yourself as some white knight by deigning to give a little bit back. We will get all of those rights back, and we will settle for nothing less than that. That's how this negotiation will work. And also, the only reason that Trump is even pretending that he would entertain this notion of compromise is because he knows it's a killer for Republicans. Put frankly, they royally screwed up by overturning Roe. And then they've sat idly by and watched as Democrats have trounced them in races across the country, even in red states like Ohio and Kentucky and Kansas and Alabama, and purple states like Virginia. In fact, Dobbs was almost unilaterally responsible for the single biggest electoral realignment of our lifetimes. So it is rich that Donald Trump thinks he has room to negotiate a compromise here, when it sure does seem like the compromise that Americans are willing to engage in is to vote out every Republican and leave it at that. Need proof? Here's Democrat Marilyn Lands, who flipped a state house seat by 25 points, running a campaign predicated on abortion and IVF in Alabama.
We knew that abortion was going to be a key part of our messaging when we went into the campaign. In my 2022 campaign, the Dobbs decision hadn't been handed down yet. And once that came, it became a piece of that campaign. This time around, things have been a little bit different. And women's health care and reproductive rights have sort of been at the heart of this campaign. And when we started this campaign, we hadn't had the IVF ruling here in this state. And so that was a real shocker. And then that became part of the conversation. And I've had so many people reach out to me to share their own stories. And I think people are talking about these issues now more openly and more freely, and I think that's really healthy dialogue that's taking place now.
So not for nothing, but when Democrats are flipping seats in Alabama, no less, by 25 points, maybe, just maybe, The American people are telling us something. So let's be perfectly clear here. Donald Trump can spout all the baseless nonsense he wants to, but if he is reelected, there will 100% be a nationwide abortion ban. And not just in red states, in all states. That means that people in California, in New York, in Vermont will all be subject to the same draconian ban. That is what this election is about. Donald Trump will try to spin it, he'll change what he says depending on who he's talking to, he'll try and make his unpopular ban seem reasonable. It's all noise. The American people have made abundantly clear where they stand on this issue, and it is as far away from Trump and his MAGA acolytes as humanly possible. And in the same way that we all made our voices heard in 2022 on the back of Dobbs, and in 2023 on the back of Dobbs, and even in the early part of this year on the back of Dobbs, we're gonna do it again in November. And then our Democratic majorities will codify Roe into law once and for all. Because despite the GOP's best efforts to trade away our rights in service of their Christo-fascist fever dreams, I can promise you that if Democrats are in control, it is not going to happen. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.